flag carriers from America and India were doing in those routes, right? Now, um, Nigeria signed over 100 BASAs in the past. Only about 25 of them have been implemented fully. Now, whilst from the US, we have Delta Airlines operating in Nigeria. United Airlines did state that they would be coming back to the country, having voluntarily exited around 2016, if you remember, due to the economic issues then. We started losing some of these external flag carriers.
Yes.
Now, um, this is necessary because, as you know, the aviation sector does have a multiplier effect on our economy. Nigeria is a traveling nation. So I don't have the exact figures here, but I think we do over $2 billion in flight tickets yearly. And this affects those who use movements of flights for business, conferencing, for academic purposes, for medical purposes, for social purposes, all right? It also affects the hospitality industry, the travels industry, and the energy industry. So, as much as Nigerians want to leave the country for different reasons, we also expect that other nationals of other countries come into Nigeria
Mm.
for different purposes. And by this, we keep our economy afloat.
Mhm.
I mean, even though we're looking at diversifying the economy, with Air Peace flying to some of these nations and being able to bring people back to the country, hopefully at a more affordable price, it also earns the country dearly desired FX.
Mm. It's also nice to hear that among the other airlines that are planning to come back to Nigeria to resume flights operations, we have American Airlines as well, United Airlines precisely, announcing its return to Lagos after its voluntary exit in 2016. So they're planning to resume in June, sometime around June 2021. Let's move on very quickly to the next story on Freshly Pressed 981 this morning. From Punch newspaper, we'll have the story. Federal government orders probe of 2.6 billion naira diverted school feeding cash. Also know that you can join via YouTube. Now, on this story, the federal government has ordered an investigation into the school feeding program for Unity schools. About 104 Unity colleges during the COVID-19 lockdown had this sum, 2.67 billion naira, released for them for meal subsidies. Um, but they were discovered that it was discovered that the funds found its way into individual accounts. Now, the reasons given by the principals of these Unity schools, some of them said it's because some of these food vendors did not have tax identification documents or numbers. So, by the federal government regulations, they couldn't receive such funds. Hence, they had to receive in proxy. Your thoughts on the ramifications of this discovery and the veracity of these claims, and what the federal government should have done before these funds were released in the first place? Shouldn't this the conditions or preconditions have existed before we get to this point where it seems like the federal government now is playing catch up?
When you say what they should have done, point of order, we don't like to think in hindsight in this country. It's a problem. But that being said, let's continue. Now, you see, the federal government through the Ministry of Education, and it was said by the Director of Press Public Relations, Federal Ministry of Education, Ben Gong, made an announcement on Tuesday titled ICPC Education Ministry to collaborate on Unity Schools. All right. Now, remember, some time back, the ICPC, that's Independent Corrupt Practices Agency, and other related offenses commission, had mentioned that about 2.67 billion meal subsidy for 104 Unity schools was allegedly found in private accounts. All right. And that led to some uproar and outrage from people that I said it. They were going to steal the money during the lockdown. We should have kept a hawk eye on those funds, palliatives. Initially, I think a lot of blame went to the what's her name, the Minister of Disaster Management and Relief. That was Lawan Farouk. Sorry, not Lawan Farouk. Sadia Farouk, who did mention that no, that their funds was something else. That this one that was meant for the schools was not in her purview. So the Ministry of Education, through the Minister of Education, had ordered a full-scale investigation into the matter. All right. Now, what he did state was that when these queries were sent to the principals who were in custody of these funds, the principals did respond. All right, that the meal subsidies, and I need people to hear this, the meal subsidies payment to the Unity colleges on the Government Integrated Financial Management Information Systems platform, that's the payment platform that the government utilizes, was designed to accommodate individual officers of those colleges who were officially recognized to receive payments and disburse same to food vendors. All right. So on the surface, that accounts for why this amount was found.
So it was a pre-existing condition.
Yes.
That it should be sent
No,
to.
not pre-existing condition. It was part of their process. Okay. Now, like you said, they were officially recognized. So the ICPC needs to confirm, and this is, remember, they're disclosing this information so as to more or less bring some level of explanation as to what the ICPC discovered. Now, they also said that the money remained in the accounts, okay, because it was meant to be paid. It wasn't meant to sit in the accounts of these school officials. It remained there because some of the farmers and the local vendors that were being used for the procurement and distribution did not have the criteria for access of those funds, and that included tax identification number, PENCOM, and some other requirements. And that's a bureaucratic issue because the truth is, at that level of SME working, that level of if you're trying to boost local farm encouragements, you have to consider the fact that many of these informal traders or farmers do not have a lot of these how do I call it, official documents that government sometimes looks for when it's carrying out its purposes. Now, they did say that they will continue to establish the veracity of these claims, and this is the Minister of Education talking, to ensure that there's no diversion of public funds or misappropriation, as same, that the ministry will work with ICPC to conduct those
So
facts.
back to my question, Divo. All this
Hindsight,
established,
yes.
corporate governance requires that part of the rudimentary things that you ask a vendor to provide is a receipt. And on the receipt, you will have the account details of the supposed vendor.
Yes.
And before you release such funds, you would have received these things that you asked for, including the receipt, right?
Oh, receipt is after.
No, I'm just saying. No. You send an invoice. Pardon my the use of the word, all right? So you ask for an invoice. And so the invoice now tells you, gives you information and gives you a document to hold in lieu of the payment that you're going to be made is going to be made for audit purposes, right?
Right.
So if I get an invoice as an individual, say Valentine, I ask you, a merchant or a vendor to send me an invoice for which payments we made, and I see an account number, and I tell you it is part of my conditions to give you this contract that you should provide XYZ account number from a certain bank because of whatever corporate policy regulations I've put in place. If you provide this information and does not tally with that, should I release money? So what I'm saying is, before this investigation started, it started on the premise that there was misappropriation of funds, right?
That was the allegation, yes.
ICPC is not disconnected, or is not supposed to be a different agency alien to the government. So the government should have known this. My question initially to you was, why is this happening now? Shouldn't these things that we're discovering now have been
taken into
cognizance before?
Okay, what I would say is this: during the COVID-19 lockdown, remember it was an unprecedented timing for many governments worldwide.
So they rushed.
No, not that they rushed. So I can't see that, and let's give them a bit of a leeway here, that they slammed on the recipients of the funds, some of these usual criteria, all right? But the truth is, in more closer look, it's not possible to have gotten some of these official documents from local farmers and vendors and market women. Some of them don't even have accounts. But the truth is, what the government wanted to do was to use this opportunity to also get that part of the society. And remember then during the lockdown, they said market people, farmers, etc., and food distribution people could continue. They were given exceptions, all right? Now, in hindsight, yes, maybe if they had known this, just like in the agricultural funding, in some of the cases, they reduced the criteria so that to allow some of these people to come in. But what is important is that, one, ICPC has done their job. Two, the Ministry of Education is answering and defending their conditions to ensure that there was no diversion. And if that money is still sitting in there, maybe they can review the criteria to ensure that this money does eventually get to those people. Secondly, I would have expected the Minister of Education to have made reports, all right?
Yes.
Yes, upfront. That's okay. We were expected to do this between A and B timing. It wasn't done, and
But
these are the
based on
reasons
the
why.
reality of the
Yes,
situation,
if this was done in terms of reporting, we wouldn't have come to this point.
let's move on to the next story, please. This day newspaper has this headline: ASU demands resignation of the education minister. Now, the Academic Staff Union of Universities yesterday came out on the Minister of Education for Education, Mr. Chukwumeka Nwajuba, urging him to resign as minister and engage in farming. This is a swift reaction to his statement, calling on the striking lecturers to go into farming and agriculture if they're not ready to come back to
The
school.
drama
I mean,
continues.
it's a bit insulting to ask lecturers that have spent time, writing dissertation documents and going through probably PhDs and professor levels to go back to farming because of this. Almost like passing a message, an undertone that education is not important or considered important by the federal government. But how do you perceive this statement and the rhetoric, going back and forth?
Yeah, a lot of negative and unhealthy rhetoric that took place. Well, the minister was participating in a program on Arise channel, okay, which was being broadcast, and he had suggested that the lecturers who are currently on strike, insisting that they could not dictate to their employer how they should be paid. All right. Remember, there's been the ongoing issue of the IPIS. All right.
Yes.
Now, ASU, in its response to the chairman from the University of Ibadan chapter, Professor Ayo Akinwale, in a statement, did say that the minister displayed his naivety on educational matters. All right. And that it was a reflection of a shallow understanding of the academic profession and the low premium that the president's Muhammad Buhari administration placed on education. I mean, those are two punches in one blow. Now, he went on and said that unlike the minister who pursues selfish agendas, maintaining that the union remain resolute in its pursuit of the welfare, and while members they will not allow others to downplay the infrastructure collapse and underfunding of public universities, but continued in the fight. I mean, they really came down hard on the Minister of State. All right. Now, the truth is, the root of this matter comes from the fact that ASU chairman stated that the varsity lecturers had not earned academic allowances since 2013 till date. All right. And also said that the available statistics show that salaries of university lecturers are below that which is paid to academics and polytechnics.
This is part of what they've been fighting
and
for.
Yes,
this is why they've been going on
it's
strike.
But the truth is this: what I want to say is that the plot should not be lost, because what happens in this country is that we lose sight of the real issue at hand and start to deliberate on sentiment. ASU, in their fair rights, is pushing for the welfare and the growth of universities. My question is their approach right? Okay, they're competing, and when I say competing, they're confronting a federal government that is split on all ends without sufficient funds to be able to deal with all the necessary issues of social amenities. So you're having strikes from the educational sector, you're having strikes from the health sector, you're having strikes from the transport sector, you're having strikes all around. Now, I believe ASU should actually have the most credible case, because you expect your academicians to have the best minds. So should the fight be about give us more money, fund us properly? No, I think ASU should be thinking, you spoke of hindsight. Now let's look at foresight. ASU should be talking about autonomy. ASU should be talking about, how can we split? Because the only reason why they're underfunded is because they live at the auspices of the federal government. They're funded by the federal government. They should be looking at how to divide and say, okay, maybe the federal government funds 50% of our revenue. We give us the opportunity to be able to raise revenue through various means. I need that conversation to start among universities, because it is well known, the same way they're comparing themselves with foreign universities, that they're not among the top 100. Foreign universities are hardly state sponsored. In most cases, education is expensive.
They get grants.
Yes, Nigerians pay this.
That level, they have a foothold.
That
ASU does not seem to have a foothold at this point.
That's what I'm saying.
Before you start asking for autonomy, at least you should have some funds to cover your overhead costs.
No, that's why I'm saying that you see, you can't lick up the damage that has been done. You can only correct it. We should be talking corrective measures.
There is my point.
Mhm.
The education minister should he be taking a stance of leaning on the part of the government, or look, let's not even talk about leaning. Who should he? Shouldn't he be acting playing the mediator role, a role of a mediator
Well,
between the federal government and the
that is
education?
that is a choice Nigerians have to make. He is only representing the position of the administration at hand,
I see.
and Nigerians need to decide whether this is working for them or not.
And they are two people.
Right.
Okay, let's move on. Our next story from this day newspaper reads: Police can't scrap SARS, says the force headquarters. Yesterday, there was a live session between the force,
Instagram.
yes, Instagram session between the force public relations officer of the Nigerian Police Force, Mr. Frank Mba, a deputy commissioner of police. He said that the special anti-robbery squad, as a special arm of the force, cannot be scrapped because of the ongoing fight against crimes in the country. He revealed this while he was having a chat with Mr. Aziz Fashola, aka Naira Marley, and people were criticizing Naira Marley, saying that, oh, he's talking to the police now. He's now acting as the voice of the people. Somebody's that's under investigation, but that's besides the point. But what are your thoughts towards this statement by the police? Saying SARS cannot be scrapped because of crimes in the country. The details of the reformation process that he alluded to, they are not clear. For the video recordings now that he has asked that people should make, what is going to be used for? What do you anticipate is the process that is going to be taken from getting video evidence and all that, based on the premise that was said?
Well, first of all, I'd like to commend the Nigerian police force for the deft public relations move that was made yesterday. Why? Because we hardly ever get to see our police come down to our level and talk to us, all right? So I'll commend the police, okay, through the force public relations officer, Frank Mba, as well as on the civil side, Aziz Fashola, aka Naira Marley, okay, for being an arrowhead for the youth in terms of because they were planning a protest, all right, under hashtag Together We Can to
And so,
yes, not end SARS. It was to protest the harassment, police brutality, extrajudicial killings that was taking place by SARS official, especially on the youth. As you know, many had complained that they had been profiled wrongly. Whenever you're carrying, even in the VP statement, you're carrying a laptop or your phones, that they believe you had to do something with cybercrime, or you're wearing dreadlocks, etc. I mean, it was just ongoing. However, with the hashtag EndSARS, which had been pushed by some other social activists, I think especially Sega Links, many Nigerians had raised a clamor. And with the vice president speaking to it, the IG quickly made statements in a swift reaction that he had banned the patrol and the checkpoints officiated by SARS, and that they can no longer do all these checkpoints, checking laptops, etc. That they should only respond to armed robberies, which they were originally meant to do. Remember, FSARS had been banned over 4 times within the last 4 years. All right. Now, the police force public relations officer was trying to more or less carry or bring some sense of understanding amongst many of the youths who were listening on the Insta Live that took place yesterday, and I would say it was quite a successful one. Almost about 300,000 people were on it at the time it was going on. All right.
in your opinion, were the questions answered?
I think it's an ongoing conversation, and let me say so, because at the end of the day, he did speak to the fact that no, they can't scrap it, and that's the truth. It needs to be reformed. Your scrapping it is not an answer. Your scrapping it is going to another side of putting your head in the ground that the problem will disappear. No, we need security, all right? Let's get that understood. Now, how our security is being administered is where the problem lies. So how do we fix this? Like I said before, you can't keep regurgitating the issue. Even firing or scrapping a level of officers is not the solution. Now, he said that he kept on saying that we mean business when we say we're not going to allow them to harass you or to ask you to bring out your stuff at these checkpoints, take videos where you can, etc. People are really outraged, and my challenge to police at this time is, whilst you're trying to reform, and that's the problem, what does reform mean? Remember, in the current state that the police operates, I don't think they can reform themselves, all right? Why I say so is this: one, they need training, all right? Because many of them clearly lack training. They don't have that at the moment. Secondly, they need officials. They need properly trained officials who I don't think they have enough. Because in a country of over 180 million people and above, with a police force of 300,000 men, with 150 already doing private workforce. The remaining 150, I don't think enough lies to bring about this trickles of efficient policing in our communities the way we are looking for it. All right. So Naira Marley, at the end of the day, having heard this, did state that it looks like the police want to do something. Let's give them a week. So I also commend him for being able to suspend his position. He didn't remove it. He simply said, let's give them a week. How much can really be done in a week? I think the police should get to work, all right, to see some steps that can be taken. I'm not sure 1 week will resolve all the issues, but there should be some steps that are taken, all right? Not just in the prosecution of those who have harassed and extorted from Nigerians. If it's possible, create maybe a police hotline, something that works, something that the Nigerian person in the remote areas of Enugu, in the remote sides of Sokoto and Jigawa can say that, okay, I have an issue and I can call and someone will respond to me.
Exactly, and action will be taken.
Something that people could feel that, okay, government is moving to ensure that they reform this ailing area within our policing.
So everybody has been calling for action. Really, it has been lacking for all these years that you said that this same rhetoric has happened. So we will follow the story very closely. Messages on WhatsApp read from JP. He says, this narrative of we can't scrap an outfit that isn't working is not acceptable. Reform, deadwood, scrap, and begin again. I was thinking, I mean, while you're talking, Devo, that the military carries out exercises with other military outfits from different countries. Why can't Nigerian police do that?
They do that already. I have many police friends who are stationed in foreign countries on behalf of Nigeria.
But how wide-reaching is it?
Very wide-reaching.
Okay.
Like I mentioned before, the police force is not large, one. Two, I've always advocated, and I'll still advocate, that 1/4 of the billions that they dedicate to the military, who are not meant to be doing internal security, should be given to the police as a move to strengthen the police reformation activities.
Thank you. Chika Guinness from Marina says, good morning, Valentine and Devo. The statement by the police that SARS can't be scrapped is an indication that police hierarchy is bent on keeping them to continue extortion. No, they've been banned from checkpoints. So, and brutalization. Okay, so how many of the let's move on to more stories. More messages rather. Akwemi from VI says we should go beyond NSAS to ask for a total reform of the police and an end to all police brutality and superiority mentality. I'd have been more excited if the IG included it in his press statements that filming the activities of officers is not a crime. Yes, that again. And the police, because of their illegal activities regarding recording them, during the process.
Right. And I'll tell people something about the filming. Please be careful, because at this moment, the police don't have a hand on those bad eggs among them. So coming out and saying, I'm filming you, it's my rights, etc., it might get you into trouble. So be smart about it. But for those who are able to be smart about filming police doing wrongdoings, it will help as evidence in prosecuting this case.
But the top governing authority of the police have said that they are going to hold the heads accountable, commissioners of police, the zonal heads and all that. So, I mean, holding the head responsible, I think it's a more effective way to curb the excesses of those under their purview.
Wow, 150,000 police for 200 million people. Which heads?
All right. Deji from Isheri says, in my opinion, FSARs do not only need training, they need periodic psych evaluation to establish the value they place on human Nigerian lives. They simply do not value lives when they act. Timothy says, greetings to everyone in the studio. Please, on the issue of SARS, government or the presidency should include vehicle body camera and tracking or proper monitoring by superior ranks to prevent extrajudicial killings and illegality. Shola says, can we have like line of duty type of thing with the police? People who police the police? That's right. And Abayami says, IG came from Interpol. Thank you for that. Now, 3 minutes left on the show. Let's quickly touch on the restructuring story. There's a story here that, has it that the Northern elders are joining the clamor for restructuring. They say that Nigeria is failing. What do you see in this new call? Will the presidency lean towards this?
How would they lean? They've already responded yesterday when Adeboye did speak at a forum saying that the country would collapse if restructuring did not take place, of which the presidency did respond to and say those who were clamoring the government would not be forced into it, okay? And that those statements were unpatriotic and do not push for the unity of this country. Now, the Northern Elders Forum did also ride on this same back and joined some of the regional groups and said Nigerians should never be tired of demanding for restructuring of the country. They argued that the states of failed management and security required us to look at how we can restructure the country for the benefit of Nigerians. And this was coming on a live television program with spokesman Dr. Hakeem Baba Ahmed. Now that the fundamental issues must be addressed since Nigeria had gained independence over 60 years now. And remember, the two basic functions of the state in his statement was meant to secure citizens and provide welfare. What am I trying to say in all of this? I think this morning there were other newspaper recordings that spoke of another regional leader who did say that God had told him that the Southeast would come out as the top. I need Nigerians to wake up. Listen, restructuring is not a big word. Let's break it down. Restructuring simply means, how can I also benefit in the country that I live in? How can I equitably, okay? That's what Nigerians have not seen. This push for religious or ethnic front-loaded movements do not solve questions. You see, ethnicity does not make your life better. That's ethnicity right. Does not sell you Gary in the market. Ethnicity does not create better economic policies. Let us stop, because now we're coming towards 2023. All right. Yes, we made a vote in 2011, and we have to live with that. However, come 2023, let's stop, seize these ethnic conversations. They do not answer our problems. Secondly, good governance is not a function of your religion or your ethnicity. Right. Good governance is about the people demanding and holding their leaders, whoever they are, accountable. That you deliver on the promises that you have given your people. And you shouldn't listen to people at the end when it comes to election. You should be looking at them now. Watch their bodies, not just the federal government. You're looking at the National Assembly. Who are those people who can defend our interests and pass the laws that will accelerate economic rejuvenation in the country? At the state level, your governors, your state assemblies, your ward councillors, all these levels of government require the participation of Nigerians. This is where restructuring takes place, not on screaming on, I am from the north, south, east, west, I am from Cameroon, I am from Chad. We must go beyond these levels of ethnic sentiment, religious sentiment that do not change the price of Gary in the market. That's right. Thank you so much. Because report cards are drawn from when you are accessed from the start of the term to the end, not just the examination. So follow the body language, the rhetorics that are passed by stakeholders. They just use us to blind us. And when it's time for elections, review them based on their body of work. People forget their brains and start thinking inside the gutter in the name of. Emmanuel says the need for filming will reduce if body cameras are provided for them. Still speaking of SARS. Now, talking about NSARS, we will have a conversation tomorrow, special with Segun Awosanya, aka Sega Link, on this issue on the show, Smooth Breakfast. Next, for 8:15, it's time for us to switch lanes to discuss sports inside of the locker room. Thank you, Devo. And Devo Curry is the story. And thanks everyone for watching. Have a blessed day. Oh, you were live? Oh my. Yeah. I gotta run. Bless G. All right. Thank you. Freshly pressed.